I became friends with Malcolm because he had a lot of contacts in music. He seemed to know everybody. He finds a way in with his blag, which is perfect for a manager.
I walked up and down the King's Road with complete anger and resentment. People were extremely absurd and still stuck into flares and platform shoes and neatly coiffured longish hair and pretending the world wasn't really happening. It was an escapism that I resented. There was also a garbage strike going on for years and years and years, and there was trash piled 10 foot high. They seemed to have missed that. Wear the garbage bag, for God's sake, and then you're dealing with it. And that's what I would be doing. I would wrap myself basically in trash.
And that's so lamely and unfashionable that dogs bark at me as I halt my head.
I've got news for you, dogs bark at me. In a weird way, that whole persona of, say, Richard III helped when I joined the Sex Pistols. Deformed, hilarious, grotesque, and the Hunchback of Notre Dame is in there, and just bizarre characters that somehow or other, through all of their deformities, managed to achieve something.
Just for a short while, scratching the sand, let go of his hand.
Steve was a kind of kleptomaniac, really. I'm sure he would be diagnosed as that, you know, because he couldn't keep his hands in his pockets, which was quite handy, really. We'd always know a way in round the back of Hammersmith Odeon, being our local area. David Bowie was playing the Ziggy farewell thing, and while the roadies was asleep in the front row, we'd be going around on stage snipping all the microphones off. We had great guitars, amplifiers, great drum kits, PA system, everything. And, you know, we couldn't play it properly.
To prevent myself from being beaten up by what were Uxbridge teddy boys coming in pilfering in the store, I decided to go down another route, rubber and leather fetish wear. I felt that that would look fun and exciting on the King's Road because it would have a similar effrontery that teddy boy clothes had, except it would be new.
Malcolm's shop interested me because of the rubberware. Fascinating that people can get themselves into such a predicament that the only way they can have sex is in a face mask and a rubber t-shirt with a bollock weight. How does it become that way? It becomes like that for you because you just cannot face reality.
Steve just came back one day and said, I found a bass player. I said, who's that? He said, this guy, Glenn, who works in Malcolm's shop.
Lo and behold, I started rehearsing with him. I had so much equipment that Steve had assembled, shall we say.
We were always pestering Malcolm to manage us, and he said he'd be interested if we got rid of Wally.
He came down once and said, you shouldn't sing, you should play guitar and you should get a singer.
We realised Wally was going to have to go.
Alas, poor
Wally.
I knew him, Horatio.
Around this time, there was a group of guys who came from the north side of London who used to come into the shop probably for the same reasons we did, you know, on a Saturday or whatever. There was a group of them, apparently all called John.
Steve and Paul never believed we were all called John. They could never take that. Sid's real name is John. They just thought we were like a Clockwork Orange gang, you know, the Johns. I have no idea why they picked me out, other than they thought I looked well different from the pack.
We arranged to meet John one night in a pub just down the road.
We had a few pints and then we came back to the shop.
We gave this singer an audition in my shop later on after the pub had closed for him to imitate and for him to try to sing along with an Alice Cooper track on a jukebox called 18, which I adored. And he sung it like the Hunchback of Notre Dame.
I'm 18 and I
I always did view myself as one damn ugly fucker. I certainly weren't no belle of the ball.
John just started going into spasms in front of the jukebox and singing and doing his act, what later became everyone knows and loves, you know. And I knew right away then that he was the singer. He was going to be the one, really.
I personally wouldn't have got him in the band, even though he looked like a star. I thought he was a wanker for taking the piss and he wasn't serious. But then after speaking to him for a while, I realised that that was his own insecurity to take the piss because he wasn't really a singer. John was from a different world to me and Cookie. He's more of an intellectual, John.
I knew what Steve was. I mean, I knew he had potential to be a great person. There's something in him that's genuine. I could see that there's a tragedy in him, just like in me. Deep down inside, they're wounded people. And then there's Glenn, waffling on about nice things like the Beatles. We're the very first people to call each other cunts, outright, face on, and know it. And we are. We all are, all our way. You put all this together and it makes for high drama. A bit like a Harold Pinter play. It shouldn't work, but it does.
If you could see, oh God, fuck off.
First rehearsals were a nightmare. I couldn't hold a damn note.
Paul couldn't really keep time. I couldn't play guitar. I fucking hated it. It was just a fucking noise. But I just stuck in there because that's all I had.
Oh fuck, it's awful. I hate songs like that.
Right from the start, we'd argue. Bitterly. For day one rehearsal, pure, full-on row. It would be constantly, you've got to learn to sing. And it's why? Says who? Who wrote the rules here? But that's all right. You need that difference of character.
I didn't think if I could be a sculptor, I necessarily needed clay. I suddenly thought you can use people, and it's people that I used like an artist. I manipulated. So creating something called the Sex Pistols was my painting, my sculpture, my little artful dodgers.
You don't create me. I am me. There is a difference.
Everyone in the planet knows Malcolm's full of shit. He's convinced people now that he's full of shit by all the shit that he says. It gets worse and worse.
And the idea of the name Sex Pistols was sexy young assassins. Pistol meaning a gun, and then pistol meaning a kind of penis.
There was never a relationship with the manager for me, other than he would always try to steal my ideas and claim them to be his own. I had to accept that he was the manager because he was their manager before I joined the band.
I think they're the same fucking star sign, they're the same kind of personality. They were always butting heads. It was definitely John who steered the ship into the way we looked.
Torn safety pin, zips all over the gaff, third-rate tramp thing. That was poverty, really. Lack of money. The arse of your pants falls out. You just use safety pins.
And I always used to call him rotten, because his fucking teeth are like dreadful, they look like dog ends. And it just stuck.
Steve